This is HOA Karen Patrol. It started with a parking warning and ended with a tow truck ambush. The tow truck amber lights lit up the curb, and Karen screamed that my car was in violation and the hook was going on right now. "I will not be questioned," she shouted, clipboard raised like a weapon, her badge clip glinting under the cloudy sky that threatened a storm. I am a paramedic in Greenville, South Carolina, and I work nights, which means I sleep days. And I had just woken up to this nightmare parked outside my townhouse in Heritage Oaks Reserve Association. The guest parking pass was right there on my dashboard where it had been for 2 weeks, but Michelle Miller, our self-appointed compliance officer, was pointing at it like it was a forgery. "You will pay the fee. Then you will pay the fee about the fee," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. The tow driver was already lowering the wheel lift, metal scraping pavement, and I could see the bright orange windshield sticker that says violation without readable details flapping in his hand. I had a notary appointment booked in 40 minutes, and missing it would delay my sworn statements for weeks, which meant my renovation schedule would fall apart and cost me thousands. Michelle stepped closer, her chin-length bob swinging, her pink light jacket zipped tight, and she tapped her badge clip with nothing readable with one finger. "This is not a negotiation," she said. "I do not negotiate with violations." I grabbed my phone and started recording. "Michelle, that pass is valid," I said, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was hammering. "I registered it with the office 2 weeks ago, and I have the email confirmation." She did not even look at me. She turned to the tow driver, a guy in a safety vest with a tire chalk stick snapped in half sticking out of his pocket, and waved him forward. "Hook it," she said. He hesitated, glancing at the pass, and I could see he was not comfortable with this. Michelle snapped her fingers. "Now." The driver shrugged and went back to his controls. I pulled up my email and held the phone toward her. "Here," I said. "Proof. Submitted on the 15th. She glanced at the screen for half a second and then turned away. "That system is under review," she said. "No passes are valid until the board votes." I blinked. "The board voted on this 6 months ago," I said. Michelle spun back around, her face pink. "Not properly," she said. "We are auditing compliance, and your vehicle is parked in a restricted zone under the emergency protocols." I looked down at the curb. There was no red paint, no fire lane markings, nothing. "This is guest parking," I said. She pointed at a tiny sign 20 feet down the street, half hidden by a shrub. "Restricted hours," she said. "I do not negotiate with violations." The hook hit the ground, and the driver started dragging it toward my front wheel. I stepped between him and the car. "Stop," I said. "You cannot tow a vehicle with a valid permit." The driver looked at Michelle. She waved him on again. "He is in violation," she said. "The association has a contract. You will tow, or we will find someone who will." I could feel the seconds ticking away. My notary appointment was at 10:30, and it was already 9:50. I needed my car. I needed those statements notarized today because my contractor was waiting on permits, and every delay cost me money I did not have. Michelle pulled out her phone and started typing. "I am logging this interaction," she said. "Obstruction of compliance enforcement. I will be recommending a separate fine for interference." The tow driver finally spoke. "Lady, if he has a pass, I need authorization in writing," he said. Michelle did not look up from her phone. "You have authorization," she said. "Our contract states any vehicle flagged by a compliance officer is subject to immediate removal." She turned the phone toward him, showing him a photo. I caught a glimpse. It was a staged photo taken at a weird angle to make my car look like it is in a fire lane, even though I was parked parallel in a marked guest spot. The driver squinted at the screen and then sighed. "All right," he said, "but if he disputes this, it is on you." Michelle smiled. "Noted," she said. I pulled out my wallet and showed the driver my registration and insurance. Both current. Both clean. He nodded slowly. "Look, man, I am just doing my job," he said quietly. "You need to call the tow yard if you want a dispute." I took a photo of his truck, his plate, and the company name on the door. Then I turned to Michelle. "What is the procedure for an emergency appeal?" I asked. She did not answer. She was already walking back toward her car, a gray sedan parked in the loading zone, with her badge clip, with nothing readable swinging from her purse strap. "I am filing a dispute today," I called after her. She stopped and turned, her smile thin. "You can file whatever you want," she said, "but your car will be an impound and the fees jump every hour. That is policy." Then she got in her car and drove off, leaving me standing there with the tow driver winching my front wheels off the ground. I checked my phone. 9:53. I had 37 minutes to get to the notary or reschedule for 3 weeks out. The tow yard was 10 miles away, and they only took cash. I did not have enough in my wallet. I called my friend Jason, who works at the courthouse and knows the filing process inside out. He picked up on the second ring. "They are towing me right now," I said. "Michelle is claiming the guest pass system is not valid." Jason swore. "That is insane," he said. "The board voted on that last year. I was there." "I know," I said. "But she is saying it was never properly adopted." Jason was quiet for a second. "Okay," he said. "Listen, get photos of everything. The tow truck, the permit, the curb, the sign she mentioned, all of it. Then file an emergency motion with the magistrate. You can do it online, but you need a notarized affidavit. I can walk you through it." I felt a surge of relief. "I have the notary appointment in 30 minutes, I said. "Perfect," Jason said. "Get there. I will meet you after, and we will file together. Do not pay the tow yard yet. Let them rack up fees. It will look worse for the HOA when you win." I thanked him and hung up. The driver was locking the wheel lift. "All set," he said. "You can pick it up at the yard after 2. I took one last photo of my car being hauled away, and then I ran inside to grab my keys. And my small measuring-free diagram packet kept closed, which had all my property documents and emails in it. I had no idea yet that the packet would become my ace. But I knew I needed every scrap of proof I could carry. I borrowed my neighbor's truck and made it to the notary with 8 minutes to spare. The notary, an older woman who ran a shipping store, stamped my affidavit without asking questions, and I paid her $12 and ran back out. Jason texted me the magistrate link, and I filled out the emergency motion in the parking lot, attaching photos of my email confirmation, the guest pass, the tow truck, and the staged photo Michelle had shown the driver. I included a statement about the time pressure and the renovation costs. Then I hit submit and waited. The system churned for 2 minutes and then spat back a case number and a hearing date, 4 days out. I called Jason. 4 days, I said. That is not emergency. He sighed. Yeah, the magistrate is backlogged, he said. But that is actually good for you. It gives you time to gather more evidence. What you need is proof that other homeowners are violating the same rule without enforcement. That is selective enforcement and it will destroy their case. I will help you document it." I felt a flicker of hope. "I also need to deal with the tow yard," I said. Jason paused. "Do not go there yet," he said. "If you pay them, it looks like you are admitting fault. Let them hold the car. Use the time to build your case." I hesitated. "My contractor needs my truck tomorrow morning," I said. Jason was firm. "Then rent one," he said. "This is bigger than one day. If you let Michelle win now, she will do this to you every month until you sell." I knew he was right. I rented a pickup from the auto shop near my townhouse and spent the afternoon driving through Heritage Oaks Reserve, taking photos of every car parked in guest spots without a visible decal. I found 6 in the first hour. 3 of them belonged to board members. I photographed their plates, their windshields, their curb positions. I downloaded the HOA bylaws from the resident portal and highlighted every section about parking enforcement. Then I cross-referenced the meeting minutes from the last 2 years. That is when I found it. The Guest Pass program had been voted on and approved in March of last year, with a full roll call recorded. Michelle had been present. She had voted yes. I printed everything and added it to my packet. Then I texted Jason. Got 6 examples of selective enforcement, plus the meeting minutes proving the pass program is valid. He replied immediately, "Excellent. Bring it to the hearing. Also, check if the tow company has a contract on file with the county. If it is not registered, the HOA might be operating outside their authority." I called the county clerk and asked. The woman who answered put me on hold for 5 minutes and then came back. "No contract on file for Heritage Oaks Reserve," she said. "They might have a private agreement, but it is not registered with us." I thanked her and added that to my notes. Then I called the tow yard. A man answered, his voice flat. "Yeah," he said. I asked about my car. He rattled off a fee. $250 for the tow, $50 a day storage, and a $75 release fee. I did not have that kind of cash, and I was not paying it anyway. I told him I was disputing the tow, and I needed documentation of who authorized it. He sighed. "Lady from the HOA called it in," he said. "Michelle something. I got her number if you want it." I already had her number, but I took it again and asked for a copy of the authorization. He said he would email it. I gave him my address and hung up. 2 hours later, the email came through. It was a scan of a handwritten note on HOA letterhead with no readable details, signed by Michelle, stating that my vehicle was in violation of emergency parking protocols and should be removed immediately. There was no mention of the guest pass, no reference to the bylaws, nothing. It was pure fabrication. I forwarded it to Jason with a note. "Smoking gun?" He called me. "That is gold," he said. "She is making up rules. Print it and bring it to the hearing." Also, I talked to a buddy who does HOA law. He says if the pass program was properly adopted, any enforcement has to follow the written procedure. If Michelle skipped the process, the tow is invalid and the HOA is liable for your costs. I felt a rush of relief. "So I can get my fees back?" Jason laughed. "You can get a lot more than that," he said. "But you have to stay clean. Do not do anything they can twist. Let them hang themselves." That night I got an email from the HOA management company. It was a notice of a surprise hearing scheduled for the next evening at 6, with the subject line, "Compliance Review." The body of the email was short. "You are required to attend a hearing regarding multiple violations of Heritage Oaks Reserve parking policies. Failure to attend may result in additional fines and legal action." I read it twice and then called Jason. "They are trying to railroad me," I said. The hearing is tomorrow, and I was not given any advance notice of the charges. Jason swore. That is a procedural violation, he said. You are supposed to get 10 days' notice in writing. Forward me that email. I will draft a response. He sent me a template an hour later, and I copied it into a reply. I received fewer than 24 hours' notice of this hearing, which violates Article 7 of the HOA bylaws requiring 10 days written notice. I am unable to attend on such short notice, and I request that the hearing be rescheduled to a date that complies with the bylaws. I also request a written list of the alleged violations and the evidence supporting them. I hit send and waited. 10 minutes later, Michelle replied, her tone icy. The hearing will proceed as scheduled. Your attendance is not optional. This is an emergency session under the authority of the compliance officer. If you do not attend, the board will vote in absentia and fines will be assessed immediately. I screenshotted the reply and sent it to Jason. He called me immediately. That is retaliation, he said. She is panicking. Go to the hearing, but do not say anything. Just listen and take notes. Let her dig the hole deeper. I agreed. The next evening, I showed up at the clubhouse at 5:55. The board was already seated, Michelle in the center, flanked by two older men I recognized as the treasurer and the secretary. There were no other homeowners present. Michelle looked up when I walked in, and her smile was tight. Thank you for coming, she said. Please sit. I sat in the front row and pulled out my phone to record. Michelle held up one hand. No recording, she said. This is a closed session. I kept the phone on the table. The bylaws say hearings are open unless the board votes to close them, I said. Did you vote? Michelle's face flushed. This is an emergency session, she said. Different rules. I shook my head. Show me where it says that. She did not answer. She opened a folder and pulled out a stack of papers. We are here to address multiple ongoing violations, she said. Unauthorized parking, failure to comply with decal requirements, obstruction of enforcement, and disrespect toward HOA officials. I stayed quiet. Michelle read from the folder. Her voice clipped. On the 16th, you parked a vehicle in a guest spot without a valid permit. I interrupted. I had a valid permit, I said. You saw it. Michelle did not look up. The permit system is under review, she said. Until the board votes to reauthorize it, no permits are valid. I pulled out my packet and opened it to the meeting minutes. The board voted to adopt the Guest Pass program on March 10th of last year, I said. You were present. You voted yes. Michelle glanced at the page and then looked away. That vote was procedural only, she said. The program was never implemented. I held up my email confirmation. Then why did the office accept my registration and issue me a pass? Michelle did not answer. She turned to the treasurer, a man in his 60s with a comb-over. Do we have a motion? The treasurer nodded. I move that we assess a fine of $500 for the parking violation and an additional $250 for obstruction. The secretary seconded. Michelle called for a vote. All three raised their hands. I stood up. This is a kangaroo court, I said. You did not give me proper notice, you did not provide evidence, and you are ignoring your own bylaws. I am filing a formal complaint with the management company, and I will see you in magistrate court. Michelle smiled. You are free to file whatever you want, she said. But the fines are due in 14 days. If you do not pay, we will place a lien on your property. Then she closed the folder and stood. This hearing is adjourned. I walked out and sat in my truck for 5 minutes, shaking with rage. Then I called Jason. They just voted to fine me $750 with no evidence and no due process, I said. Jason was quiet for a second. Good, he said. That is going to backfire hard. Document everything. I already started drafting a motion to void the fines. We will file it with the magistrate tomorrow. I went home and wrote up a timeline of every interaction, every email, every phone call. I attached photos, receipts, meeting minutes, and the email from the tow yard. Then I sent the whole package to Jason. He called me an hour later. This is airtight, he said. They violated their own bylaws at least 4 times. The magistrate is going to love this. But we need one more thing. We need a witness who can testify that other homeowners are not being enforced against. Do you know anyone? I thought about it. My neighbor 2 doors down has a guest car parked in the same spot every weekend with no pass, I said. And the board president parks in a fire lane every Tuesday for book club. Jason laughed. Perfect, he said. Get photos, and we will subpoena them if we have to. I spent the next 2 days collecting more evidence. I found 8 more violations, all belonging to people on Michelle's good side. I photographed every single one. I also discovered something else. The towing rule Michelle kept quoting was never properly adopted. The board had discussed it in a meeting 2 years ago, but the motion had failed. There was no record of it passing. It was a ghost rule. I sent Jason the minutes, and he replied with 3 exclamation points. This is it. She is enforcing a rule that does not exist. That is fraud. We can void the tow, void the fines, and force the HOA to reimburse you. I felt a flicker of hope for the first time in days. The magistrate hearing was set for the next morning. Jason met me outside the courthouse at 8:30, and we went over the plan. Let me do the talking, he said. You just answer questions if the magistrate asks. Be calm, be factual, do not get emotional. I nodded. We walked into the courtroom and sat in the front row. Michelle arrived 10 minutes later with a man in a suit who I assumed was the HOA attorney. She did not look at me. The magistrate called the case, and we stood. Jason laid out the facts: improper notice, no valid rule, selective enforcement, procedural violations. He submitted the evidence packet and walked the magistrate through every document. Michelle's attorney tried to argue that the HOA had broad discretion under the covenants, but Jason cut him off. The covenants require the board to follow its own bylaws, he said. They did not. The magistrate flipped through the packet for 5 minutes and then looked up. This is pretty clear, she said. The HOA did not follow its own procedures, and the rule being enforced does not appear to exist in the current bylaws. I am voiding the fines and ordering the HOA to reimburse the plaintiff for towing and storage fees. She turned to Michelle's attorney. I also want to see documentation that the board is following proper notice procedures going forward. This looked like retaliation, and I will not tolerate that in my court. Michelle stood up, her face red. This is an outrage, she said. We have the authority to. The magistrate cut her off. Sit down, she said. You are not helping your case. Michelle sat. The magistrate signed the order and handed it to the clerk. The HOA will pay the plaintiff $1,200 in fees and costs within 30 days, she said. If they do not, file a contempt motion. Case closed. If you are enjoying this wild HOA nightmare, and want to see how Karen's reign finally ends, hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories with receipts. I walked out of the courtroom with Jason, and we stood in the parking lot for a minute, both of us grinning. "That was beautiful," Jason said. "She tried to bluff, and the magistrate called her on it." I shook his hand. "I could not have done this without you," I said. He waved me off. "You did the work," he said. "You gathered the evidence. I just helped you organize it. Now go get your car and send the HOA a bill." I drove to the tow yard and showed them the court order. The guy behind the counter looked at it and sighed. "All right," he said. "No charge. Your car is in Lot B." I walked out to Lot B and found my car covered in dust, but otherwise fine. I checked the guest pass on the dashboard, still there, still intact. I got in and drove home. When I pulled into Heritage Oaks Reserve, I saw Michelle's gray sedan parked in the loading zone again. I took a photo and added it to my file. Then I sent an email to the management company with a copy of the court order and a list of every procedural violation the board had committed. I also attached the photos of selective enforcement and a polite note requesting that the board be required to attend compliance training. The management company replied 2 hours later, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are reviewing the matter and will be in touch." 3 days later, I got a call from the property manager, a woman named Angela, who always had a forced smile. She asked if I could meet her at the clubhouse. I agreed. When I arrived, Angela was waiting with a folder. She gestured for me to sit. "I want to apologize for the way this was handled," she said. "The board exceeded its authority, and we take that very seriously." I stayed quiet. Angela opened the folder. "We have reviewed the court order and the evidence you provided," she said. "The board has agreed to reimburse you in full and to revise the parking enforcement procedures. We are also requiring Miss Miller to step down from her compliance officer role effective immediately." I felt a surge of satisfaction, but I kept my face neutral. "What about the selective enforcement?" I asked. Angela nodded. "We have sent a notice to all homeowners reminding them of the parking rules, and we will be conducting quarterly audits to ensure even enforcement." I leaned forward. "I also want a written no-contact directive," I said. "Michelle has been harassing me for weeks, and I do not want any more surprise hearings or threatened liens." Angela hesitated. "I can request that," she said. I shook my head. "I need it in writing," I said, "and I need it copied to the board and the HOA attorney." Angela sighed. "All right," she said. "I will draft it today." She did. The email came through that evening. "Miss Miller is hereby directed to cease all direct contact with you regarding compliance matters. Any future concerns will be handled through the management company." A copy of this directive has been provided to the board and legal counsel. I forwarded it to Jason with a note, "Done." He replied, "Victory." But a week later, I found out it was not over. I got an email from a homeowner I had never met, a guy named Brian, who lived 3 streets over. He said he had heard about my case and he wanted to talk. We met at a coffee shop near the neighborhood. Brian was in his 40s, wearing a polo and khakis, and he looked exhausted. "Michelle has been targeting me for 6 months," he said. "She fined me for having a trailer in my driveway, even though half the neighborhood has trailers. I fought it, and she retaliated by reporting me to the county for a zoning violation that does not exist. It cost me $2,000 in attorney fees to get it dismissed." I listened as he laid out a pattern of abuse that matched my own experience. Selective enforcement, ghost rules, surprise hearings, retaliation. She is doing this to anyone who questions her, Brian said. I want to file a class action complaint, but I need help organizing it. I thought about it. I am not a lawyer, I said, but I know someone who might be able to help. I gave him Jason's contact info and told him to reach out. 2 weeks later, Brian called me back. Jason connected me with an HOA attorney who specializes in board misconduct, he said. We are filing a formal complaint with the state, and we are also demanding a special election to recall the board. Do you want in? I did. Over the next month, I helped Brian and 3 other homeowners compile evidence of Michelle's enforcement pattern. We found 22 cases of selective enforcement, 8 procedural violations, and 4 instances of retaliation. We submitted everything to the state HOA regulatory board and requested an investigation. The state sent an auditor. The auditor spent 2 days reviewing records and interviewing homeowners. Then she issued a report. I got a copy from Brian. The board of Heritage Oaks Reserve Association has repeatedly violated state HOA statutes and its own governing documents. The compliance officer exceeded her authority, failed to follow proper procedures, and engaged in selective enforcement. The board is required to implement corrective measures within 60 days or face suspension of its corporate charter. The management company called an emergency meeting. Angela stood at the front of the clubhouse with the auditor's report in her hand. The board has been directed to implement immediate reforms, she said. This includes revised enforcement procedures, mandatory training, and oversight by the management company. Additionally, Ms. Miller has been removed from all HOA leadership roles and is prohibited from serving on the board for 5 years. Michelle was sitting in the back row, her face pale. She stood up. This is a witch hunt, she said. I was following the rules. Angela cut her off. You were not, she said. The auditor found clear evidence of selective enforcement and retaliation. The board has voted to accept your resignation. Michelle looked around the room, waiting for support. No one spoke. She grabbed her purse and walked out. The door slammed behind her. Angela continued. We are also announcing a special election for 3 board seats, she said. Nominations are open starting today. If you are interested in serving, please submit your name to the management company. Brian leaned over and whispered. You should run, he said. I shook my head. I just want to live here in peace, I said. But I will vote for you if you run. He grinned. Deal, he said. A week later, I got another email from Angela. The board has voted to reimburse you for all fees and costs as ordered by the court, she said. A check will be mailed within 5 business days. The check arrived on time, $1,200. I deposited it and sent a thank you note to Jason. He replied, You earned it. Enjoy the peace and quiet. But peace and quiet did not last long. 2 weeks later, I was walking to my mailbox at the USPS cluster when I saw Michelle standing there with her clipboard. She was blocking the path, her badge clip with nothing readable swinging from her jacket. She looked up when she saw me, and her smile was thin. We need to talk, she said. I stopped 10 feet away. No, we do not, I said. You are under a no-contact directive. She waved the clipboard. That directive is under review, she said. I have new evidence that your property is in violation of landscaping codes, and I am required to notify you. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You are not required to do anything, I said. You were removed from your compliance role. Michelle stepped closer. I am still a homeowner, she said. I have the right to report violations. I shook my head. You have the right to file a complaint with the management company, I said. You do not have the right to confront me. Now step back. She did not move. I do not negotiate with violations, she said, her voice rising. You think you won, but you did not. I have photos of your yard, and I am submitting them to the board tonight. I let her threaten a lien, because that threat would look terrible on the record. Go ahead, I said. Submit whatever you want. I will forward this recording to Angela and the HOA attorney, and we will let them decide if you are violating the no-contact order. Michelle's face flushed. You are bluffing, she said. I am not, I said. And just so you know, I have a package of photos proving multiple homeowners violate the same rule without enforcement. I also have a second copy for the HOA attorney, so the legal risk is obvious. Michelle froze. What photos? I smiled. You will find out if you file that complaint, I said. But I would think very carefully before you do. Because if the attorney sees evidence of selective enforcement again, the state auditor is going to be very interested. Michelle stared at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, and then I walked to the mailbox. A deputy was parked near the curb, filling out paperwork. He looked up when I approached. Everything okay? He asked. I nodded. Just an HOA dispute, I said. The deputy smiled. Those are the worst, he said. Let me know if she bothers you again. I thanked him and grabbed my mail. When I got home, I sent the recording to Angela with a note. Michelle violated the no-contact directive today at the mailbox cluster. Please advise. Angela replied within an hour. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are forwarding this to the board and legal counsel. Ms. Miller will be notified that any further contact will result in legal action. The next day, I got a call from the HOA attorney, a man named David, who sounded tired. I want to apologize on behalf of the association, he said. Miss Miller's behavior has been unacceptable, and we are taking steps to ensure it does not happen again. I appreciate that, I said. But I need more than an apology. I need assurance that she will not be allowed to weaponize the HOA rules against me or anyone else. David sighed. The board has agreed to implement a new enforcement policy that requires all complaints to be submitted in writing and reviewed by the management company before any action is taken, he said. Ms. Miller will not have access to the enforcement tools, and she will not be allowed to contact homeowners directly. That is a start, I said. But what about the lien threat? David was quiet for a second. If she files a complaint, we will review it under the new policy, he said. But based on the evidence you have provided, I do not believe any violations exist. And if she continues to harass you, we will pursue a restraining order. That works, I said. David thanked me and hung up. I sat back and exhaled. It was finally over. 2 weeks later, the special election happened. Brian won a seat on the board, along with 2 other homeowners who had been targeted by Michelle. The new board held its first meeting and voted to adopt the revised enforcement policy. They also voted to pay my filing fees to end the fight, covering the $200 I had spent on court costs and notary fees. Angela sent me a check with a note. The board recognizes that you were unfairly targeted, and we appreciate your patience as we work to resolve this matter. I cashed the check and filed it with the rest of my evidence. Then I sent a final email to the board. Thank you for addressing this matter and for implementing reforms. I hope Heritage Oaks Reserve can move forward with fair and transparent enforcement for all homeowners. Brian replied, We could not have done it without you. Thanks for standing up. A month later, I was sitting on my porch when I saw Michelle drive by. She did not look at me. She did not slow down. She just kept going. I have not seen her since. The new board has been running quarterly audits and publishing the results online. Every homeowner can see who has been cited and for what. The enforcement is even now. No more ghost rules, no more surprise hearings, no more retaliation. I still have the guest pass on my dashboard. I still park in the same spot. No one has said a word. Jason texted me a few weeks ago, "How is the HOA drama?" I replied, "Quiet." He sent back a laughing emoji. "That is the best outcome," he said. I agreed. But I kept all my evidence just in case. You never know when you will need it. The renovation finished on time. The contractor did not have to wait. I did not lose thousands of dollars. And every time I pull into Heritage Oaks Reserve, I see the new signs, "Parking enforcement conducted by management company only." No direct homeowner contact. It is a small victory. But it is mine. And it is enough. Until next time, thanks for watching.